Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the BioNexus Health podcast. Today is the final episode of Diabetes and Mold, episode 3, part 3, where I will be discussing preventive strategies. So let's take a look at some preventive. There are 4 main preventive strategies, and I shall elaborate as I go through each one. So let's get started.
Welcome to the BioNexus Health podcast with Dr. Jodie A. Dashore, who holds a PhD in Integrative Medicine, is board certified in Integrative Pediatrics, an internationally recognized pioneering clinician, and author. And now here's your host of BioNexus Health podcast, Dr. Jodie A. Dashore.
Obviously, it's important to properly understand, diagnose diabetes in order to begin a treatment plan to reverse it. Now, even before a person is diagnosed with diabetes, there are 4 basic steps that can help minimize the risk of becoming diabetic. You've been exposed to mold. You or your child, of course, you know that the risk is there. I've explained about the leptin resistance, the insulin resistance, the inflammation and damage caused in the gray matter nuclei in the brain, the gut inflammation that is seen in people that have been exposed to mold toxins and have biotoxin illness. So it's important to consider all of these factors. All right. Now, the first one is eliminate refined foods. Eliminate processed foods. Nowadays, many people eat too many refined food products, too many processed food products. Now, that single factor is responsible for causing a host of illnesses, including insulin resistance, diabetes. Processed foods, refined foods are pretty much devitalized. They lack vital nutrients, enzymes, vitamins, minerals. Now, the reason why such foods are so prevalent is that they have long shelf lives, don't they? Because they lack essential nutrients, they don't spoil. And they are, of course, convenient. But eating food devoid of any essential nutrients, a devitalized food product leads to a devitalized body. It becomes difficult to heal and recover from chronic inflammation, from autism, from biotoxin illness, right? Lyme disease, and so on and so forth. Now, fast foods, refined carbohydrate products, like, regular bread, pasta, cereal, they are quickly digested. It's just like, there's nothing there to digest, right? And assimilate. There's hardly any nutrition. Now, they get in quickly, and that leads to a quick elevation in blood sugar levels. The pancreas responds to high blood sugar by producing a large amount of insulin. And eventually, the pancreas can get tired, can fatigue, and insulin resistance can develop, or both together. Pretty much, garbage in, garbage out is what holds true for processed and refined fast food type products. Second factor is, close behind fast food, processed food, would be artificial sweeteners. Okay. It is important to understand that artificial sweeteners, food and drinks that contain artificial sweeteners, like aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, these artificial sweeteners are much sweeter than sugar. Additionally, many studies have been done that link them to chronic inflammation, even cancer. And when you consume them, the pancreas reacts as if you have ingested a large amount of sugar. And continuously consuming these sweeteners can lead to an exaggerated insulin response, which will eventually, as I'm sure you understand, will impair the pancreas' ability to regulate blood sugar, right? Other research has found that artificial sweeteners can cause diabetes by altering the bacteria, the microflora, the gut microbiome in the gut. Very often, in fact, over and over again, I found that patients who ingest artificial sweeteners have more health problems, including obesity, diabetes, and recovering from chronic illness. In fact, I like to make it clear to my patients that it is going to be a huge challenge to overcome, autism or diabetes or Lyme disease or multi-organ involvement, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, biotoxin illness, of course, PANS, PANDAS. It is extremely difficult to overcome these conditions if you continue to consume artificial sweeteners, large amounts. Let's go on to the next one. That would be to make sure you're getting adequate hydration and exercise. Now, hydration doesn't just mean drinking, tap water from your faucet. Filtered water, and it needs to be structured water. Okay, so hydration, structured water contains the essential minerals. Many times, filtration takes everything out, even the good stuff. That is fine. And, because I usually recommend supplementing with minerals. So that's important. For example, if you have a reverse osmosis filter like I do, then it is important to add minerals to the water that you drink, right? So one other thing that I like to ask all my patients is, how much water do you drink? The reason is simple, isn't it? The human body is made mostly of water. If we don't maintain adequate hydration, the body becomes stressed and releases stress hormones like cortisol. Now, high levels of stress hormones can lead to blood sugar fluctuations as well, and eventually poor blood sugar control and diabetes. Now, how much water should you drink? Simple. Take your weight in pounds and divide by 2. That number is the ounces of water you should try to drink every day. That's an ideal situation. In addition, stay active as much as possible, of course. It is, once again, nearly impossible to reverse any insulin resistance without some kind of physical activity. At least 30 minutes of some kind of physical activity every day is important. Okay. So physical activity can be just similar to walking. In inclement weather, you can do that at home, but get moving. You don't have to do brisk walking if you are unable to. You can go for a good walk, a simple, regular walk. You can do the walking simulation activities at home if there is, 2 feet of snow outside or it's raining, but try to stay active. The last one is correct any nutritional imbalances. I like to customize protocols for all clients. We run a lot of lab tests. So look at your nutritional status, right? Nutritional imbalances can by themselves cause and or worsen insulin resistance and diabetes. Nutritional imbalances can also occur in many of my clients. One example I'll give you. When I recommend a gluten-free diet, right? Now, gluten-free has become a buzzword nowadays. And, almost all fast food places, pizzerias, etc., they have a gluten-free option. Regular grocery stores carry gluten-free options as well. I mean, there is a variety of goodies, including breads and rolls and what have you, cakes, pizza, that is available gluten-free. But here's the key. Are you eating gluten-free nutrition or are you eating gluten-free junk? It's all in the ingredients. Read the labels. The first victory is if you can find organic gluten-free. Second important thing, whether you find organic or not, is to look at the labels. Okay. Nowadays, with the gluten-free industry booming, we've seen a lot of starches labeled as flour, like really, like potato flour. What the heck is that? It's starch, isn't it? So look for labels that indicate starch, like potato flour, arrowroot, cassava. These are starches. So I would stay clear because starches can often feed the bad bacteria in the gut. Minimizing your processed starch is very important. Additionally, look for hidden sources of MSG. You can literally Google what are the hidden sources of MSG, and you'll see a whole list come up, right? You'll see, things like natural flavors, autolyzed yeast extract, extractives of spices, or, spice extracts. These can all be natural variations of the same old MSG, monosodium glutamate. Okay. So keep these things in mind that when you are switching your diet, read the labels. I mean, seriously, home-cooked, simple food is the best. One important element that I found is important for treating diabetes is chromium. Chromium levels. Chromium is an essential element we cannot live without. Chromium is found in beef, liver, eggs, apples, brewer's yeast. It is necessary for metabolizing both fats and carbohydrates. It is also needed for insulin production and metabolism. Now, chromium can help with the protocol that we use for reversing insulin resistance. And a slightly higher dose than RDA, the recommended daily allowance, is kind of important for people with diabetes. So, around anywhere from 50 to 100 micrograms and even higher, depending on the patient. As you know, I like to customize, would be a better dosage of chromium. Now, keep in mind, taking too much chromium can also cause problems. So it's important to have a knowledgeable healthcare provider in your corner, right? Look at your essential elements, minerals, vitamin levels before you start supplementing. What I'm giving you today is just information, okay? Educational purposes. Maintaining adequate vitamin levels is important for preventing and treating diabetes. So B2, B6, vitamin B2, B6, B12, C and E, folic acid can all help control blood sugar. Minerals including selenium, zinc, copper, manganese. I already spoke about chromium. All right, now, my favorite, herbal therapy. So herbal therapy is extremely useful, helpful. Ayurvedic herbals, Western herbals can help not only your blood sugar levels, but can also help your pancreas regulate insulin release. Herbs that can be beneficial include cinnamon, bitter melon, fenugreek, green tea, heartwood, gymnema. These are the main ones. Now, a diagnosis of diabetes does not have to be a death sentence. Following recommendations, prevention, getting rid of environmental toxins, addressing your mold illness, biotoxin illness, any other triggers that you may have in your body. Remember, I always speak to you about identifying and eliminating the triggers that are causing these chronic diseases in your body. So look at addressing the root cause, and you will definitely see results. All right, cool. So that is it for today. Those were the 4 preventive factors for diabetes. Hope that was helpful. And thank you for joining me once again. I will see you next time. Be well. Namaste.
Thank you for joining Master Herbalist Dr. Jodie A. Dashore, Director of the BioNexus Health Clinic and BioNexus Herbals, on the BioNexus Health podcast, where we explore and share information and stories about recovering and healing from chronic and environmental illnesses such as mold biotoxin illness, Lyme disease, autism spectrum disorder, fatigue, Crohn's and colitis, mast cell activation syndrome, PANS, and more. Please help us grow our message by subscribing to our podcast channel and sharing the podcast on your social networks. For more information, visit bionexushealth.com.
Information within this video, audio, or text, collectively known as the podcast, has not been reviewed by the FDA. Nothing within the podcast is intended as or should be construed as medical advice. Information is for general informational and educational purposes only. Consumers of the podcast should consult with their healthcare practitioners for medical recommendations. Seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider. Do not disregard the advice of a healthcare provider based on any information from the podcast. The information within the podcast may contain information concerning dietary supplements or over-the-counter products that are not drugs. Our dietary supplement products are not intended for use as a means to cure, treat, prevent, diagnose, or mitigate any disease or other medical or abnormal condition.